Zero Waste Highland Perthshire is a collaboration between Zero Waste Scotland and Perth and Kinross Council to help the community send less waste to landfill. A major part of this is food waste. The people in the kitchen today took part in our Food Lover Families workshops, where we worked with Lee Patrick from the Townhouse to show how easy it is to make wholesome food from scratch for hardly any money. We took on board the Love Food Hate Waste messages of planning, storing, understanding date labels and cooking with leftovers to show how to get the most out of our food.
Love Food Hate Waste is a campaign run by Zero Waste Scotland to help people make the most of their food by providing hints, tips and recipes. It's about helping people make small changes that they can easily fit into their day that will help them stop throwing things out and save money too. This avoidable household food waste is worth around £1 billion, which works out around £460 a year for the average household in Scotland, or £38 a month. What this means in real terms is that we waste around 1/5 of all the food that we buy. When you throw away food, you're not just wasting the food, but also the resources such as energy, fuel, time and water that went into growing, harvesting, storing, transporting and cooking the food. If it's then buried in landfill sites, it produces methane, a greenhouse gas which is very harmful to the environment. If we could stop wasting food that could have been eaten on this scale, it would prevent the equivalent of 1.5 million tonnes of carbon dioxide per year. That's roughly the same as taking 1 in 4 cars off Scotland's roads. The foods we waste the most are fresh vegetables and salad, drink, fresh fruit and bakery items such as bread and cakes.
What do you want to talk about?
I want to talk about food. I want to talk about waste, and I want to change the way people think about food.
What do you think about food?
I think about it all the time. What do you consider the most wasteful thing in Scotland?
People.
Exactly. People who have been trained to shop with their wallets and not their minds and not their taste buds. We have in Scotland, it's God's supermarket. We've got the best food, the best shellfish, the best fruit. And what do? We go to Lidl's and the Co-op and buy 2 for 1 and then throw 1 away. That's just silly.
What do you want to say to people then?
I want to say to people, rethink what you're doing. Rethink the way you look at food. It's not just fuel, it's exciting. Do you know, sometimes I cook something and it takes my breath away because it's so beautiful. That's not me cooking it, that's the produce. It's so beautiful and it's not being used. That's what I think.
Some people don't have much money.
It doesn't have to cost money. It's not all about money. I understand in these times people haven't got very much money, but shop smart. You know, shop smart. Why would you be buying tomatoes from Peru and herbs from Spain when in this little town alone there's people that grow wonderful fruit and veg, and just go and find them. Buy what you need. Do you know? Buy what you need. Don't buy what you think you need, and just have a little bit of thought. You know, thought about what you're going to put into your body. You wouldn't put diesel in a car that runs on petrol. So why would you fill yourself up with rubbish?
What about people who don't have much time?
Make time. Spend as much time cooking as you do playing Candy Crush with all your friends on your phone. Let's get real, you know. Come on. Live. Live, I think.
Right, what's for starters then?
I'm going to make a broccoli and Stilton soup with 3 ingredients in the time it takes to blanch some broccoli.
How long does that take?
It probably takes about 4 or 5 minutes.
Talk me through it.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to chop off the rough stalk, because that'll take too long to cook. And then I'm just going to segment the head. And then I'm going to just blanch it in water with a little bit of salt. Not too much salt because we're going to add Stilton crust. I'm going to blanch that. Then when it's cooked, I'm going to put it straight into a liquidizer or a food blender. I'm going to use Stilton crusts, which is just the end of Stilton, which is for nothing. If you go to the deli, they'll give them to you. Just the crust of the Stilton. I'm going to blend all that, I'm going to check the seasoning, and I'm going to serve it. But I'm going to also serve it with a little Parmesan crisp, which is just grated Parmesan baked in the oven. And I can do that in 10 minutes. And it's a fantastic, it tastes of broccoli and Stilton. There's no chefery in it, it's just a wonderful thing.
Broccoli is one of those veg that often end up at the back of people's fridge.
Well, make it with this.
They buy it with good intentions and it kind of goes just a little bit brown and ends up getting chucked out.
Well, don't chuck it out, just chuck the stalk off, blanch it, liquidise it till you get a soup consistency, as much of the water you boil it in, and then just add the Stilton crust and then blitz it some more and serve it. With some homemade bread would be lovely, which we'll come to, yeah, it's wonderful.
Hang on, where did the rest of that broccoli go?
I put it in the bin.
What bin?
The brown bin, of course.
That's alright then.
Are you alright with that?
Alright with that?
Good. We would have used it, but it's just sinewy, you know, so it has to go. Some things have to be wasted.
We've come down to a site outside Glenfarg run by Earnside Energy to see what happens to our food waste. I'm here with Ron Smith, he's the site manager here at Earnside. Ron, can you tell us about the process, about what happens to our waste when it comes here at the plant?
No problem. We'll talk about it a bit more in detail as we walk round. But what I'd like to sort of just say is that material you put into your brown bin, the food waste and the green waste, this material behind us gives you an example of what you end up with. There's two types of source segregated food waste. These are very specific terms. Basically there's food waste which comes in from Perth and Kinross it's mainly commercial, and there's also the commingled green waste and food waste, which is normally in the brown bins that people have in their houses. That material gets processed into compost and it goes through in-vessel composting process. What happens in the in-vessel composting process is that the bugs which are naturally present in the material breaks down the material into organic matter. In terms of the commercial food waste, that is then put through our anaerobic digester. First of all, what we do is put it through a machine which grinds it up into like a toothpaste consistency. The packaging, excess packaging, is drawn off. The material is the toothpaste type consistency is approximately 20% dry matter content. This allows us to feed the plant in a very controlled way. What happens with that food? It's fed roughly 1 tonne every half hour into the primary fermenter. The primary fermenter is like a large soup in which certain types of bacteria digest the food, and in doing so they generate biogas. The biogas is collected and is used as the energy source for our engine. It's a CHP, which basically means we generate power and heat. The power is used to supply the site, and the surplus is then put out into the national grid. So it's what's called renewable energy. Again, there's very specific processes which we have to follow, because after the material has been fermented, we then have to go through maceration, pasteurisation, separation. Lots of things happen to it to make sure it's a suitable standard. The liquid digestate which is left is an organic fertiliser which goes out to local farms. And as I said already, the biogas is collected separately and is used as the power source for our engine.
Where are the farms that the end products are going to?
The farms are spread all around the area, in Perth and Kinross, some over in Fife, but it's mainly within 20-25 miles radius of the site. That's the main customers.
Can you tell me what the alternative for this line of waste would be if we didn't take it?
Well, I've been on site for 11 years, and I was here right back at the start when Perth and Kinross initially started doing trials. I think it was Oak Bank. We started with the trial, the commingled arrangement, and then spread it throughout Perth and Kinross. Historically, that material would have ended up in landfill. And the danger with going to landfill, you could have the material rotting down in an uncontrolled way and not being collected. The methane gas it generates wouldn't have been collected correctly, and therefore some of that would end up in the atmosphere. And methane doesn't do very well for the atmosphere.
So Ron, this is the contents of our brown lidded bins in Perth and Kinross?
Yes. This gives you an example here. This is what we're expecting to see. These are the bio bags, the food content, which is what we're really looking for. Unfortunately, we also get one or two other things which You get the flower pots and the stones, and I think there's a wee pile over there. You can see how much of stuff we've collected today.
So this is the kind of contamination that you're seeing then, Ron?
Yes, you can see good examples of plastic bottles and stones, flower pots, you name it. I think some people just don't really appreciate what they're supposed to be putting in, because I've always said already it should be green waste and food waste and biobags only.
Sure. So do you have some sort of special machinery to separate this kind of contamination?
Yes, a real special tool. It's called a picking stick. It's great fun.
How much waste do you have out of your kitchen?
A day, not very much. Not very much at all. The most waste comes back on customers' plates, whose eyes are bigger than their stomachs.
A lot of the public say to me that it's restaurants that create the most waste.
I doubt that very much. I doubt it's the people that go to supermarkets and are blinded by the offers, buy this one, get that one free, and then they throw the second one away. Do you know, it's not people that are, that's where the most waste comes, the public sector. But if people just thought about what they were doing and sought out little local outlets like we show in this film, you know, Greg Mingus, for example, go there and buy as many potatoes as you want, grown by him, for half the price that you get the washed, sanitised old ones in large supermarkets whose name will not be mentioned in here. But I'm going to be very cooperative with you and tell you that the biggest waste is people. That's the biggest waste.
It's a beautiful sunny day here in Highland Perthshire, so I've come out just a couple of miles outside Aberfeldy to Balhomish Farm to talk to Greg Mingus, who grows all sorts of different vegetables here and sells them right from the farm gate. So Greg, how did you get started in the industry?
Well, I've been born and brought up here on the farm. I've been here all my life, and I started with just traditional agriculture, sort of suckler cows and some barley and bits and pieces. And then a group of local farmers set up a co-op in the 80s to market some vegetables to try and diversify, to boost their incomes from farming, because it wasn't that great then. So they asked me to join, so I joined and started to grow some cauliflowers, and that carried on for a few years. And then unfortunately the co-op folded after a few years in the early 90s, and I carried on growing cauliflowers and then diversified into growing a lot of other vegetables to help supply local wholesalers and the farm, sell at the farm gate.
Okay, excellent. How much land have you got here?
40 hectares. I've just got 40 hectares, so I'm quite a small farmer compared to a lot of them, so the vegetables helps me with my extra income. It's get more income from a smaller area of ground.
Okay, and so what vegetables do you grow?
As I mentioned, I've grown cauliflowers, and I've diversified into growing broccoli and cabbages and different types of lettuce, lollo rosso, oak leaf, cos, and I do potatoes and also try leeks, carrots and onions and parsnips.
Oh, okay, excellent. Whereabouts do you sell your produce?
I go to local markets and sell produce there. I've got a shop at the road end, an honesty box to come in and help themselves and hopefully put the money in the tin when they leave. And I've got a major wholesaler in Edinburgh who buys the bulk of the vegetables in the summertime when they're in full production. He'll pick them up and take them away to his depot in Edinburgh, and then he'll distribute them from there. Okay.
Is it mostly local people that come by then and buy from the farm gate?
It's mostly local. You get some tourists come in. In the tourist season, folk will see the sign and they'll come in and they'll have a look around and buy stuff. But there's a lot of locals come in and buy it because they like the local fresh produce.
Yeah, yeah. Do you think that's the best way for us to be buying our fruit and veg?
I would hope so. It's certainly fresher and it's hopefully cheaper, although you can't compete with the supermarkets if they do their special promotions. There's no way I can compete when they do a special promotion on. But as I say, it's fresher and it's local. There's no air miles. It travels 200 yards from the field to the shop, and that's it.
Mm-hmm. Sure. But do you think that in general we've all kind of lost touch with where and how our food is grown?
I think possibly the younger generation has, because they've been brought up with this the society where everything's there in the supermarket for them 24/7. The older generation, they appreciate stuff that's grown locally. So sure. I think the younger generation has to a certain degree.
Yeah. And do you think that they should care?
I think they are. I think they are being taught to care now, and some of them are taking notice of this and starting to buy locally and think about where their food is coming from now.
Sure, sure. I suppose especially in a place like Aberfeldy where people do know each other and you want to support local business.
Yes, that's true.
And I suppose there's also quite a lot of potential in Highland Perthshire to grow these sorts of things. I mean, do you think Highland Perthshire's got something particular to offer?
It's certainly a good growing season in the summertime. Obviously, the winter time is a different matter, but it's got a good long growing season in the summertime. The long day lengths helps. As we know, it's between fruit in Highland Perthshire area is fantastic in the summertime. You can't beat it, and it's good for the growing the vegetables too. They let you know you get nice growing conditions for them long daylight hours, and they grow quick and nice. I mean, the beauty about my shop is I can sell class 2 or misshapen vegetables in there, you know, at a reduced price, which a lot of people come in and buy, because otherwise it's just wastage. It's getting utilised. People are using it, and it's a win-win. I get money for something that probably I wouldn't be able to sell anyway, so it's good.
So does that include like misshapen veg and things like that?
Yes, I get misshapen carrots or big carrots or cauliflowers a bit cut off them or a bit damaged in them, and small cauliflowers, that, you know, things that wouldn't normally, or the supermarkets wouldn't sell anyway.
So you're proof that there is a market for that kind of vegetable?
Certainly, there certainly is, yes. Yep.
Excellent. So what's the benefit of buying local produce? Is it really that different?
Well, I think it is. I mean, I'll pick the stuff and eat it straight away out the field, and I hope the locals who come in, or the people who come and buy it, get the same benefit. It's nice and fresh, and to me it tastes a lot better than supermarket stuff because it's fresher. I mean, I've had people saying they've never tasted cauliflowers like it, and people come far and wide to buy carrots because of the taste of the carrots. They're nice and sweet and juicy, and they just love it.
Yeah.
They just can't get enough of the carrots.
And what about strawberries and things like that?
As I said before, in season, you can't beat the taste of Scottish strawberry flowers. In the winter time, you buy them from Spain or abroad or wherever they come from the supermarkets. To me, they're tasteless. I don't buy them in the winter time because I don't find any taste in them.
Okay. In Scotland, we throw away around £70 million worth of fruit every year. How does that make you feel?
It's not very good. That's a lot of money to be wasted. So it's up to the individual. If they feel they can squander that amount of money, well, that's up to them. I certainly wouldn't like to throw anything out.
Right then, what's for the main course then?
Pizza.
Pizza? That's not very healthy, is it?
It's not very Scottish either, is it? But the way I do it is.
How do you do it?
We make our own dough. Now, I've done a little experiment with people that have obviously joined in my experiment, because there's so many people that are gluten-free, and you know they're not really. What it is that the new bread that you buy, your big loaves and your value loaves, they're all steam pressed, steam proved, so they're proven, they're risen quickly, and all the actual love. You know, when I make dough, I whisper to it.
What do you whisper?
I whisper that I love it, and it's going to be beautiful, and the bread's going to be fantastic, and it is. You just got to look at how I came about this. The gluten intolerant, gluten-free people, right? Look in Italy. Do you know the percentage of the people in the whole of Italy that are gluten-free?
10%.
7.5%. And that's because, you know, I don't know why, but they can't eat pasta or bread. Every meal starts with bread. If the bread's good, the meal's going to be good. So we've been making our own bread. We make our own bread for bread rolls. We make our own bread for pizza. And we use a very fine flour.
Who's got time to make bread?
It takes 10-15 minutes. Who's got time to do lots of things? You know, who's got time to talk to their neighbours while they're having a fag? Go and make some bread. It's a lot better for you. And by proving it, you know, actually proving it yourself, I fed our bread and our pizza to gluten-free people, and they love it. And they have no intolerance to it.
Pizza's not very Scottish either, as you say.
Either is macaroni pie, darling. I'm here to tell you that, but you know, you still eat loads of them. Who would put pasta in a pie? Come on, double carb yourself. I don't care. Have a nice macaroni dish, you know, with some, I don't know, with some smoked duck or something like that. Have that in a macaroni pie. Pizza, we make the dough ourselves. We make the passata ourselves, and then you can put whatever topping you want on it, okay? And we show you how to do that, and we do it. We've done 3 courses in 15 minutes for £5. Anyone want to argue about that? You can't. And 15 minutes of my time, okay, it might take you half an hour, but you've still made a 3-course meal in half an hour. You tell me someone hasn't got half an hour for £5? Come on, if that was at the Co-op in a package, everyone would be buying it. Just because you've got to think a little bit. People don't like to think, they like to be told. Oh, this is good value. Oh, it says so, it must be. It's poisoning you. Stop it. Just stop it, get a grip. You know, look at the school. They've got a perfectly lovely, healthy canteen there, right? What do the children want to do? walk around the town with chips and cheese. Come on. Someone should stop this. You know, I think it is cool to cook your own food. I think it is cool to eat healthy, and I think everyone should be doing it.
I'm in Pitlochry to meet local traditional butcher Rory McDonald, who has shops in Pitlochry and Aberfeldy. So Rory, how long have you been in the industry?
I've been in the industry all my life. It's a family business. I'm the third generation.
Okay.
So I worked all through my summer holidays and every Saturday through school. And then once I left school, a brief spell away, and I came back to run the business with my dad, and now he's retired. So I'm in charge the last 14 years.
Okay, and has much changed in the industry even in that time, in the last 14 years?
Yeah, a great deal actually. Huge importance on the internet sales now.
Right.
Obviously that has just grown and grown. We've got a web shop now that people can order online and get delivered all around the country, direct to the door, 24 hours later.
Fabulous.
So yeah, that's really helped, and that was never there before. So big change.
Have people's tastes changed over the last few years? Like, are people looking more for organic or free range meats?
Yeah, people ask about that. The free range is a big thing. Organic, not so much. That's drifted away a bit. I think the cost is prohibitive for an awful lot of people. But free range is important, and tastes have changed where people look for something easier to cook, quicker to cook.
Okay.
In days gone by, people had time and they cooked for the family every night. Now that's not so much. People are working more. They want something quick and easy. So we've had to adapt what we sell to allow for that.
Sure. Do people still buy meat from traditional butchers, or are they shopping more in supermarkets?
No, I think in recent times we've had a resurgence of people coming back to butcher shops. Obviously the supermarkets have the advantage of convenience, where you're there anyway, you're getting your weekly shop, you're picking stuff up in a basket, it's very easy. But people are aware of where their meat comes from and want to know, and they see a lot of television programmes encouraging them to go to the local butcher and ask for what they want. So we've seen a big resurgence in business actually from people who would normally have gone to the supermarket.
So you think that issue of traceability in the meat industry is something that people are more aware of?
Very much so. People want to know where the meat's from, and especially after the sort of scandals in the past, of the Tesco's and whatever, with the horse meat scandal, they want to know the traceability. And butcher shops like us and other traditional butcher shops, we can show them exactly where the beef comes from. It's all local, all from people who we've bought from for 40 or 50 years. They know exactly the kind of cattle we like, exactly the sheep, exactly the pigs. So the traceability is entirely there, and they can trust us that that's from where it's from. Okay. We have 3 farms that we deal with, and one is just outside Perth, Woodhead of Mailer, and one's outside Dunkeld, which is Mr Brewster at Rockmail Farm, and one is just in Forfar, Kingston Farm, where we get the traditional native Aberdeen Angus from, and that's it. That's all we buy from. So using those 3 throughout the year, we have a steady supply of beef, so it's entirely local.
And for people who do get their meat from supermarkets, why would you say what you're selling is better rather than maybe a cut that comes from elsewhere, somewhere around the world? Yeah,
sure. Well, I mean, there's a number of things really where the supermarkets don't hang their beef. So when the cattle are killed and they're hung, we hang them for at least 3 weeks, if not longer, and that lets the air dry the meat out and give it the flavour that breaks down the enzymes in the meat, and the flavour comes through. The supermarkets want their beef to be in and out quickly with no weight loss either, so they don't let it hang. So the beef you're getting from there is not as tender, it's not as flavoursome as the beef we get here. And it's back to traceability. There's a lot of dubious practices within the industry of labelling stuff that's British or Scottish, and it's not.
And how does what you sell compare cost-wise?
Well, I think if people took the time to compare the cost of what they're picking up in the supermarket, they realise that we're really competitive, and in fact we're cheaper for a lot of things. When I study the stuff in supermarkets to have a look at the prices, if you look at the price per kilo, they realise that actually we're cheaper for an awful lot of items and are comparable, but it's getting people to make that comparison and realise that actually we're not expensive.
So what in particular does Highland Perthshire have to offer in terms of the meat industry?
Yeah, I mean, we have everything here. You just look around the fields and you see all the sheep grazing. We've got deer in the hills. We have the cattle are just second to none. We're the heart of Scotland for the meat industry. So we have everything on our doorstep, everything, all the wild game that you can imagine, the pheasants and pigeons and partridge, it's all here. So you don't need to go further away. You don't need to shop around or import anything. You should be able to eat from the Highland Persian.
Sure. Finally, Scotland wastes over £130 million worth of fresh meat and fish every year. How does that make you feel?
It's terrible, isn't it? I mean, there's so many aspects to that, from big business wasting, but down to the housewife just not using up what they could use. And it's, I don't know, it's a combination of two things I think we need to deal with. Is legislation to try and stop the wastage at the big food hauliers and food manufacturing point, but we've education for people in their households how to use stuff up. You know, they cook a roast on a Sunday, you can get 3 or 4 meals out of that. Use it, use it, use it. Again, don't be frightened to use it. It's not going to go off in your fridge over 2 days. It's going to be fine. Use it up, don't throw it out. And then your household budget will go so much further.
Sure. Give people at home some tips on how they can reduce the waste in their kitchen.
Think about what you're doing. Some people, they will go and buy a small little joint of beef and they'll cook it and it goes to nothing, and then it's one day and then they throw the rest away. Go and talk to a butcher. Buy a larger cut, which might be more expensive, but you could get 4 or 5 meals out of that. The same with chicken. The same with anything, It's really simple. I'll give you an example. Buy a roast chicken. Sunday, roast chicken dinner. Monday, a chicken fricassee. Tuesday, make a risotto with the stock. Go to the Burke's and pick some wild garlic and make a fantastic wild garlic soup with chicken stock that you've already paid for. That's 3 meals there. I could go on, and you might say, I'm a bit bored of chicken. We'll do it day about, Think.
What's for pudding then? Clootie dumpling?
No, I've lost my clue, but I've got something much more sexy than that.
Sexy?
It is, trust me. What we do is we get soft fruit from Blairgowrie when it's in glut. We put some caster sugar over it and we just freeze it and then use it when we need to. But the way we revive it, rather than defrosting it because it goes all mulchy, is we make a white chocolate sauce and then we pour the warm white chocolate sauce over the frozen berries and they crack and they make this wonderful, wonderful dessert. Very small because it's not really healthy, but it is beautiful. It's like a little gift, It's like
a little gift.
It's like a little gift for being. It's decadent, but it's lovely. But we've been so healthy all the way through, hopefully, that this is just like you're not going to have it every night. You're not going to have everything every night, are you? Unless you're lucky. You lucky? I'm not
Always
lucky.
lucky.
I'm not lucky. So this is just like a little, a kiss. It's beautiful.
Sexy, decadent kiss.
Exactly. That's what I'm all about. Sexy, decadent kissing and cooking. That's what I like. I'm forward.
But you do this too.
I do this as well. I don't want to do that. Okay.
Oh, come on,
come on then. Come on then.
So that's it then. We've had a 3-course meal, pretty healthy, a little bit decadent.
Of course.
For under a £5. Job done.
Cooked in 15 minutes, like a poem. Beautifully put together. Which brings us to our poet. Someone who, like the rest of us here, we've done this thing because we can. Because it was proved to me in the 70s that you can do whatever you want to. You want to be a filmmaker, make a film. You want to help people, help people. You want to be a poet, write. And this is what Neil's done. Given up his career to write. And here's his views on the Scottish diet. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Neil Campbell.
Yes, so here I am in Scotland. I should probably introduce myself. Lee has asked me to be part of this film on the diet of Scotland, which is something I'm very honoured to do. Through my own life, I have had a lot of experience with the culinary world. I've eaten bird's nest soup on the streets of Kuala Lumpur. I've eaten sushi in the bars of Tokyo. I've also eaten guinea pig in Peru. That wasn't a very nice experience, let me tell you. So where do I start with the diet of Scotland, eh? So here we are, the land of some of the finest fish and seafood, wild venison, an array of local produce, and generally a green and healthy looking country to the passenger passing by on the 747. That was also my life. I was your flight attendant on the 747, passing high above. I've seen Scotland from the air. I've been the flight attendant that's looked down and saw this wonderful green land. The home of the haggis, porridge and the porridge drawer. More on that one later. But here we are too in the home of the fish supper, the sausage supper, the king rib supper, salt and sauce, a poke of chips, chips and cheese, and dare I say it, that well-known delicacy, the deep-fried Mars bar. Let's not go down that road. Like many in this country, we have become obsessed with the supermarket. I shop at Waitrose, you know. I go to M&S. Actually, myself, I prefer Sainsbury's. But I've also seen you, in Aldi, buying your free-range eggs in bulk. But what about what is on our doorstep? Let's take a step back in time and explore the diet of Scotland in a little bit more detail. I will tell two very real tales from people that I knew and grew up with. One is from my nan and the other is from a family friend. Let's start with this family friend. Now, this gentleman was born in the 1930s in the far north of Scotland, in what I would like to call an agricultural community. Times were tough and they didn't have a lot at their disposal. This is where the porridge drawer comes into play. No doubt some of you have heard of this little known drawer and what it means. If my memory serves me correctly, there would be a set of drawers. The one on top would contain the oats, and the one below would contain the cooked porridge. Yes, you heard me correctly, cooked. I am under no illusion that this drawer would be kept clean. Well, I certainly like to hope that it would be kept clean. The mother of this particular chap would cut the congealed porridge into what I can only refer to as biscuits, which would be consumed at a later date. How do you fancy that one? I bet you don't, but needs must. I bet you had some of the porridge drawer, didn't you? The second tale comes from my own nan. My granddad had been raised in a fishing community and came from a long line of men who had went to sea. Gramps broke the tradition though, and followed a different path in his life, but through chance, him, my nan and my mum were able to move back to the fishing village of Lossiemouth where my grandfather had been brought up. In those days, during the 1940s and the 1950s, Lossiemouth was famed for its fresh fish and seafood, something that Scotland is very famous for. We have some of the best fish and seafood that this planet has to offer, but again, we don't see that. My grandparents' neighbour was a bit of a local celebrity fisherman, and there would sometimes come an afternoon where Jimmy would knock on the door with a bowl of fresh prawns for my nan. If Mum happened to be at home, she would be sent out to buy some salt, 2 lemons, and fetch my great auntie. Auntie would rush down, and her and Nan would eat the lot. Nowadays we refer to them as langoustines, but Nan and Auntie just referred to them as giant prawns. You know what I mean. This is a rare culinary treat, and something that was very unique in the fishing communities. Before I move on, let me talk a bit more about the fishing industry. And if we look back, we can see how intrinsic this is to Scotland. And it also leads me to believe that if we look back at the Scottish diet, it's not as unhealthy as we perhaps think it is, and the joke that we have perhaps become in the culinary world. Staples like porridge, mince and tatties, soups and stews, and for the fishing communities, that wonderful seafood, then these are not unhealthy dishes. They are wholesome and nutritious. Scotland may not be at the top of the culinary tree, but people had to make the best of what they had. And I will tell you that mince and tatties or stovies are still 2 favourites of mine. What could be better on a cold winter night, eh? So to conclude, look at where we are, look at what we're surrounded by. A healthy green land, the scent of wild garlic in the air. Perhaps we can call it the scent of summer. Scotland, not as unhealthy as one might think. A green land, a beautiful land, full of some great produce. Let's get back to our roots and use what's available to us. Over and out, the Scottish diet.
Love Food 8 Waste provides hints and tips to householders on simple ways to make their food go further, such as advice on meal planning, storing, freezing, cooking with leftovers and date labels. Visit our website lovefood8waste.com for lots of information, recipes, hints and tips.
And at the end of the day, whatever our individual priorities are, whether we want to save money, think about our health, support local business or prevent waste and protect natural resources, if we take control of our food choices, we'll see benefits in each of those areas simultaneously. Everybody wins.